May the words of my mouth and the meditation of all our hearts be always acceptable to you, O Lord, our rock and our Redeemer. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Meredyth Ward, and I'm the urban missioner here in Worcester. I serve in Maine South, helping to meet the needs of unhoused and marginally housed people, many of whom live with addiction and mental illness. Like most of us, I've heard this gospel message many times. Jesus shows up at the home of Simon and Andrew and is told as soon as he arrives that Simon's mother-in-law is sick with a fever. Jesus takes her by the hand and lifts her up, and she begins to serve them. Now, frankly, part of me is annoyed by this passage. Neither Jesus nor Simon's mother-in-law gets a break. No, how was your day? Or would you like a cup of water for Jesus? No, take a deep breath. Maybe you should take it easy for a little while for Simon's mother-in-law. I know that this is the Gospel of Mark and everything happens immediately, but could we model a little work-life balance here? This, of course, is pure projection on my part. Like most of us, I'm tired of dealing with COVID, tired of stress, tired of being apart from those I love. I want Jesus and Simon's mother-in-law to rest because I want to rest. But Jesus didn't simply take away fever. He lifted Simon's mother-in-law up. He could have simply had a good thought for her or prayed for her or stood in the doorway. But Jesus touched her and lifted her, and her response was one of service. When we have been changed by Jesus, it's not only our bodies that are healed, but our hearts and our souls. And when our hearts and souls are healed, when healing is stirred up within us, we are moved to act. As some of you know, I'm a person in long-term recovery from alcoholism and addiction. I know what it is to be caught by a fever that I did not want and could not control. I know what desperation feels like. But by the grace of God and recovery work, I'm now a priest and your urban missioner. I have been lifted up by Jesus, and my work is to lift up others in the name of our church. Before COVID, we had dozens of people in and out of this storefront space. We welcome people coming in for a cup of coffee or a pair of socks or a snack. Sometimes chess sets came out, sometimes decks of cards, and often music was shared one way or another. Now, of course, things are different. The guidelines laid down by our state and our diocese, not to mention common sense, have meant that we can't be together in the same way. Folks like my friend Eric, who used to show us Kung Fu, or Bebo, who would patiently translate for me when I got lost in street Spanish. They and others cannot come in to sit with us. We've had to improvise and pivot and learn new ways to connect. Sometimes we still hang out here in the storefront and talk to people outside or in the doorway. A table across the front door holds snacks and other gifts and marks the barrier imposed by social distancing. Other days, we jump in our cars and head out to find our folks. We meet people under bridges or in parking lots. We bring food and water bottles. And now that winter has arrived, we travel with backpacks filled with gloves and hats and socks and hand warmers. And when we meet people, there is care and concern for us and for the gathered community. Folks pass the bags hand over hand until everyone has one. No one simply grabs 2 or 3, although there's often a request for an extra one for someone who's missing. One young woman I know lights up when she sees us. She's begun to share about her life, and she proudly told me last week that she's now on the clinic, which means that she's taking methadone instead of the deadly cocktail of heroin and fentanyl, which is on the street. We tell her week after week that she has choices and that when she's ready, we will help her. Her eyes filled when I last reminded her of that. I believe you, she said. The time we spend making relationships helps create space where healing and lifting each other can begin. Things don't happen overnight, no matter what Mark's gospel might wish. It is through time and prayer and compassion and witness that we move toward wholeness for ourselves and for others. One of the people distributing backpacks and food parcels first came to the storefront when she was very early in her journey to sobriety. She listened to our stories, shared her own, and began to heal. We celebrated with her as she received chips for months of sobriety. We counted with her. 1 month, 2 months, 11 months. And on the day she received her 1-year coin, we celebrated with cake and ice cream. She now has over 4 years of continuous sobriety and is working as a CNA on a COVID unit in one of our hospitals here in Worcester. Carrie works second shift, which means she gets out at about 11:30 at night. As she leaves work, she stops where people are sleeping on the street and brings them both sustenance and hope. I tell them that the bags are from walking together, and I tell them that you guys loved me when I could not love myself. Carrie is tired at the end of her shift, but she reaches out to others. We are tired as we reach 11 months of COVID restrictions, but we too can reach out to others. Maybe not in the way we'd like, maybe not the way we used to, but in the ways which are possible. Jesus healed Simon's mother-in-law and did the same for the crowds outside the house. And then the next day he moved on to another town. But I am convinced that the healing did not stop in Simon and Andrew's hometown. Simon's mother-in-law and those who were healed later in the evening were lifted up and drawn themselves into the work of healing and compassion and justice. May we share our experience, strength, and hope, and not only amongst ourselves, but with all those we meet. And may our experience of healing lead us to work for justice.